Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Hope you guys are having a good week. I'm recording this on Tuesday. You guys will see this tomorrow, Wednesday. So hope you guys are having a good week, and it's Wednesday when you're seeing this. So happy Hump Day to you. um, yeah, celebrating the Browns' victory this week. Hopefully get another win this upcoming Sunday versus the Baltimore Ravens. Mike and I will be getting into that later in the week and getting ready for the game. But I'm here today. Exciting show today. I'm glad to get kind of take a break from football, to be honest with you, and get back to um, what I mainly talk about on this channel, which is my journey with anxiety, my spiritual background, my growth, and what I've learned, and everything that's helped me, and sharing it with you guys on the show, and just a lot of things, just society in general. A lot of things, just a lot of conversations that maybe people my age, I'm 24 years old, that um, don't have enough of, or not really seen nowadays, not as much. So, on today's show, though, it kind of goes with a lot of those things, all three of those, talk about anxiety, mental health support, if you want to call it that, um, spiritual, we'll have that today as well. Um, and also just society in general, just, our day to day life, what we see, kind of all put together in the show today. And the topic for today's show is about fear of rejection and acceptance, and just kind of in terms of the anxiety. I heard this from Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy, my main man. Shout out to Dennis, who did a live on Saturday night on YouTube. He does tremendous lives. He takes Q&A questions from people. He has like a main topic we'll talk about and kind of get into. And one lady asked him a question about confrontation anxiety, right? And about how she gets anxiety confronting people, about conversating with people, and that the fear people have now talking to people, communicating with people, and just kind of the anxiety and stress people have, that we're to the point where people will avoid doing that. They'll avoid talking to people. They'll avoid having that kind of confrontation, and you kind of become very agoraphobic in a way, which I can relate to because I've struggled with agoraphobia. And that's a process, man. It's a process to get out of that. It's a process to. It's a lot to unpack for a lot of people. It was for me. Maybe not be as much of a process to get out of it, but it's a process in terms of being conditioned and programmed into that we're not really aware of as people. You don't just wait. You're not born agoraphobic. You're not born like, in my opinion, it's yes, there are some genetic factors with some people in certain cases and with certain anxieties and stuff. But I think for the most part, a lot of people, we're just conditioned. It's a conditioning that we learn, right? And when heard this part about the confrontation anxiety, really made me think a lot about my struggles when I was going through deep, deep anxiety, bad anxiety, like to the point where I wouldn't call people. I wouldn't, pretty much in my hiatus for 7 years I was in. I would hide, never really left the house, couldn't leave the house at times, even with my agoraphobia. And kind of just went silent for years, and up until I came out and told the world my first video where I've been. And so, confrontation anxiety was something a lot of people with anxiety deal with. A lot of people deal with the nervousness of confronting somebody. Maybe it's somebody you don't know. You're meeting at the store, or somebody you meet new. Maybe you're trying to approach a pretty girl or a nice looking guy. And you're trying to start conversation with them. Maybe you're confronting somebody from your past. Maybe somebody that made you feel some type of way. Right? Confrontation anxiety can go many different ways. Or it could just be something simple. Maybe you're going to a doctor's appointment. Maybe you're going to buy a car. Maybe you're going to wherever, right? And you have to confront somebody. And I think a lot of, like Dennis says, I'm gonna play a clip from the live, where he talks about really the two main root causes usually are the fear of rejection, right, and the fear of non-acceptance. I think I said acceptance. Excuse, I should have said non-acceptance at the beginning. Fear of non-acceptance and fear of rejection. So yeah, so fear of rejection, right? Fear of non-acceptance. They kind of go hand in hand. And I think our society today has put so much pressure through social media and just through the programming on TV, what we're surrounded by, our friends, people we know. Everybody's very caught up in trying to be accepted, trying to be liked. There's like an emphasis nowadays on You have to do X, Y, and Z. You have to look a certain way. You have to talk a certain way. You have to be portrayed as a certain person. You have to have certain monetary things. You have to, possess certain things. You should be married or be in a relationship by a certain age. You should be doing X, Y, and Z by a certain age, right? If you're a Christian like me, a lot of sinful behavior, the world says you have to be things that we know are sin that we aren't made for us to do at certain times. You have to do that or do certain things by a certain age, right? There's a lot of pressure out there, music, culture, pop culture, a lot of things, right? Pressure, keyword pressure. And I think when you really look at the confrontation anxiety, I'm going to take a more deeper dive into it today. I'm going to play a video here from Dennis real quick where he's going to break down kind of it's a clip rather from the live about kind of just the basics of confrontation anxiety, right? So we're going to start off with the basics, and just kind of talk about everybody knows that movie, what I just quoted from. Leave a comment below if you know where that movie's from, where I said that. But anyways, um, but no, he's going to break down kind of just uh, just the basics and kind of just what really the root causes you of confrontation anxiety is. Like I said, usually it's the fear of rejection and unacceptance, and just what can help you, right? And I'm gonna break that down too, and I'm gonna come into later on with just more of a deeper approach to it, and kind of why we're so afraid of confrontation. Why do we put so much emphasis on being accepted and liked, which really triggers the confrontation anxiety, which triggers a lot of people's anxiety just in general. Really, I don't even say I'll put a label on it as confrontation anxiety, just anxiety and stress in general, right? That's what really it could even cause your agoraphobia. I can attest to that. It can cause many things. It could be the root cause of your anxiety as a whole. And so we're really going to break this down today because I feel like this is very important. But I'm going to start off with Dennis's clip here. I'm going to link this live below as well. Go subscribe to Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy. And like I said, he's going to break it down right here. He's going to answer the question and kind of just give a good overview about what confrontation anxiety really is.
Mel, any tips on how to overcome fear of confrontation? So that was me for a long time. Fear of confrontation for me and many other people comes down to two things. The craving for acceptance and the fear of rejection. Okay, so you're at some level you're craving acceptance from someone and hoping that you don't step on toes or create some kind of conflict verbally or energetically or whatever it may be. And there's a fear of being rejected. If you get rejected, your level of self-worth may deteriorate even lower than what it is right now, potentially. So these are the two driving forces, I believe.
So he started off there, as you hear what he said there, craving acceptance and fear of rejection, the two driving forces. Now, really pay attention to what he's about to say. I like what he ended there with how when you have that fear of rejection, right? Maybe um, somebody doesn't want to talk to you, or you ask somebody out and they told you no, or whatever. Yeah, I mean, we know what rejection is. Um, Maybe your friends rejected you because you won't go along with the get along. Maybe you won't go do what they want to do. Maybe because you have values that you want to maintain, that you won't go out and be a follower like everybody else, right? That could be a fear of rejection. There's a lot of followers out there today, not enough trendsetters. So, um, especially my age group, but um, we place our self value and our self worth on that, and so when it doesn't get met, we view our self worth and our self value as low. So now you see we're kind of going a little deeper now beyond the anxiety. We know what it is, and we're going to get into a little bit why we place such a high value on it. Why do we put our self worth into that? But also, when you start to get low like that, and I've been here, you start to get into a depression, right? And you could become agoraphobic and not want to leave your home and not want to talk to people and kind of hide from the world or live a fake life. Everything you do is like you see a lot of people nowadays. They put on a fake image, a fake display. but it's not really who they are, and it's you're living a double life. You're living when you have a divided mind or a divided personality. You can't have peace in your life. How can you? Because you're trying to be one person 1 minute and one person the next minute. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of stress. It's a lot of anxiety, and so um, you know, it's just I like what he said there about why we put so much value in that because, like I said, you go into the depression, and I've been there, and a lot of what really caused my agoraphobia, like I said, was the last time I was around. I was in a situation at 15 years old. It was the last time I was really around people like that. Um, Nobody could understand what I was going through. Nobody understood the feeling. I didn't even know either, which I mentioned many times in the show about my health anxiety, what I was experiencing. I could verbalize it, but nobody really understood. And also just the lack of knowledge people really had about anxiety and health anxiety and just panic and everything and the disorders themselves and how to really seek proper help. Um, but also too, just the pressure, you know, it was pressure I was feeling. It was also, I feel like people were angry at me that I was making people mad and disappointing people and making people upset. Right. And it was the point where I felt I wasn't safe being around people because I just felt a certain type of way and that people betrayed me in a certain you get all these false illusions. Now none of that was really true. Nobody was mad at me. Nobody was angry. Everybody was people close to me in a situation or the adults. They were upset at what was going on because they didn't want to see me going through that. They didn't know how to fix it. That's very frustrating, especially as parents, to see your child not you see your child go through that and there's nothing you could do about it. And so you don't know what to do. And so but again, that was mine. And so because of all of that, what I felt embarrassed, felt ashamed, felt like I let people down, felt like I didn't live up to the expectations I put on myself, not only what other people put on me, right? And so when all but just kind of crashed down, and it was it, and I just said, it was enough. I just went away for a while, and I kind of just hid away for a while, and I kind of turned myself off from the world, and just tucked to my house, and just kept a little circle with my family, and didn't really do much. And I didn't really leave the house a whole lot either. The first couple 3 months or so. I remember there was a point where I couldn't even really walk to the end of the block, and I would just turn around and come back home. Like I just did not want to go far from home. Was safe to me, the house, because I didn't want to go back out in the world. I didn't want to be around people. That was the problem. I didn't want to. It wasn't the fear of going to a store, that stuff. I've done that stuff my whole life. That's nothing to me. Like we all do. That was nothing to me. I used to love going everywhere, but prior to that, but what it really was, what I didn't realize till really years later, really this past year when I did the inner work on the inner circle program by Dennis Simsek and just getting proper help and counseling and just kind of just examining myself and be more of an investigator to make peace with the past and to accept it to help me to move forward and just have true serenity in my life. I realized that that's what it was. I was just trying to. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want that confrontation, and that confrontation led me to hide, and it led me to. It made me second guess myself too. Like that whole experience just made me second guess who I really was. I started to doubt myself. I started to say maybe I'm not who I want to be. Maybe not good enough for other people. Maybe everybody. It just felt like everybody wants you. You ever felt like you've been in a situation where everybody just wants you to be who they want you to be? Because that's how it feels, right? That's how it comes across. Doesn't mean it may not be truthful. Sometimes it is truthful for people. Um, that could put a lot of pressure on you. It can make you really feel this type of way. It can make you want to hide. It can make you want to avoid, right? Because that's what agoraphobia is. It's avoidance of certain situations, places, or things, or people. And it can make you not want to confront people. And it becomes you have a fear of non acceptance and rejection. But as time goes on, when you get in that kind of you start getting that depression, like I said, what it can lead to, you start to crave acceptance because you're not getting the proper things you need. And when you start to crave acceptance, like the proper things, in terms of we all need human connection and support and love and physical touch and things. I can. Here, I was deprived of that for 7 years. All of that deprived. Like I had basically felt it was like I was looking back, it was like living in prison for a while. Uh, now it wasn't exactly prison. There was moments too. The Lord started to push me out more, and I was still able to do some things to have fun and enjoy certain things. But I didn't understand what was going on. I just kind of was living this blur, really, this movie of just where I left off, and just kind of went with it in terms of just that, shutting myself off from the world and to kind of just doing my own thing and just going away. And but as time went on, like I always talk about the summer of 21. What the summer of 2021, when I kind of got to the end of that August, and it was just a rough summer for me internally, and it just got escalated, right? What that really was just that 7 years, that 7 years of just well, 6 years up to that point. It was just that 6 years up to that point of just I just had enough. I couldn't do it anymore. You know what I mean? I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't hide anymore. I couldn't just try to distract myself from the anxiety anymore, from the pain, really, which what was causing the anxiety? It was that pain deep down inside I was trying to hide away from. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And also, I just missed people. I missed being around people. I missed my friends. I missed my family. I missed just being who I really wanted to, who I was. And also, I just wanted to become who I knew I was capable of becoming. Right. And that's still been a process. But I'm a lot more mature now, and I'm a lot more at peace in my life than I've ever been, and made peace with the past, and just uh, yeah, I'm beyond anxiety now. I'm more just I'm in the rebuilding phase of my life now. Really, this summer, just kind of becoming who I want to be, and who I want to just kind of what I want in my life, and just kind of allowing God to reveal to me who He wants me to be, and just let Him working with through me, and just letting go, right? But it takes time and skill and practice to get there, and patience. So, but again, for a long time, I tried to just hide away, but I was afraid of that confrontation with people, because last time I was confronted with people, and back when I was 15, it was not good. It was very hostile. It was very. I felt like people were angry at me. I felt like my teammates were angry at me at the time. I felt like the way, because it was a miscommunication amongst everybody that caused frustration, right? And your teammates will think I was quitting, or I was betraying. I was didn't care, which to a point I didn't care, because not because I didn't care about the team or football or anything. It was just because I didn't. I was so caught up in what was going on. I didn't have peace. I couldn't sleep at night. I didn't. Man, in that summer, I probably slept 2 hours a night and got up and went to practice every day, all day, and just nonstop, and panicking all night at times, having anxiety attacks. Like it was a lot, man. And so it was a toll it took on me at 15 years old, too. So it was a lot, but it caused a lot of frustration amongst people, right? And I started to interpret that frustration as people were mad at me, and people um, were kind of rejecting me, or didn't want to accept me, or didn't want to listen to me, right? A lot of those same things, and it caused me to go away. But in all that being said, I also placed my value in that, because I didn't really understand. I was 15, but even at years later, as time went on, I was still placing my value in that, and I was afraid to break out of my agora and put myself back out there, and just not even just on here publicly, but just in private, because I was still placed my value on that. And I didn't realize that until I, I started seeking help. Obviously, I was able to kind of slow down and put everything together, and kind of like, you know what? Hey, man, wait a minute. Maybe a lot of the programming I've been thinking, like Dennis always talks about, it's not accurate. Maybe a lot of the things I see how other people act doesn't mean I have to act like that. That's not who I am, really. I wasn't who I was before all this. You know, growing up, yes, anybody knew me growing up. I kind of was somebody who always just kept quiet and did my own thing. Like I didn't, I had friends I obviously hung out with. We always kind of go do things together, but for the most part, I kind of always just did my own thing. Like I didn't really follow anybody around or chase anybody. Or I just kind of just did what I wanted to do and have fun, play ball. Just hang out and watch sports, and hang out with my buddies and go to people's houses, and like I just lived. Like I didn't really care. I didn't care what people thought, really. I just didn't. But as time went on, and I started getting certain situations, and I started to get older, you start to feel that pressure, right? And you started to bunch your authority figures, and a lot of times we can interpret that pressure a wrong way, which can lead us to all the we talked about today, about not confronting the anxiety, or the confrontation anxiety rather, and wanting to avoid certain things. We start to have fear of rejection and non-acceptance. And so, yeah, I didn't mean to talk that long there, but sometimes you just go on rants, so screw it. But let's finish. I'm gonna play the rest of this clip here. It's a short part I'm playing. Back to Dennis. Maybe not. Now we are.
Believe, to the fear of confrontation. Now, a fear of confrontation for me came down to a lack of communication with my own parental figures. Okay. And so, what you want to do, Mel, is you want to do some mild trance work in the form of inner child healing. I would focus on that to get to the root causes of the fear of confrontation. And then what you want to do is you want to put yourself in situations where there may be some kind of confrontation with somebody. Okay. And it doesn't mean you provoke it. It just means that you're there in that moment, going through the experience in a calm and safe manner with the uncertainty of the confrontation that may show up. Okay, so it's kind of twofold. It's clean up your stuff, clean up anything in relation to the child traumas and the relationships from the past. And number two, put yourself in those situations that it may occur, and then through things that you do through your body, such as your breathing patterns, such as your self-talk, such as the speed and how fast you talk, allow yourself to move through that experience projecting safety. Because if you do those two things, you're well on your way. Right? You're well on your way. You're going to feel more and more comfortable with confrontation, because it's just a part of everything that we do. So at some point, we're going to have to come to find peace within it. It's so uncomfortable for me to tell people what to do, even though it's my job. Well, maybe you don't believe in what you're saying to people. Maybe there's a belief there that says, if I say this to someone and they reject me, then I'm going to feel really crappy about myself, right? And that's not you consciously. That's the inner child. That's the lower self speaking. The lower self doesn't want you to project your voice, okay? Do you have any throat-related issues, stiffness, tension, Mel, in the throat area? Let me know. Curious. ZTV, let's touch on that. Yes, Mel, you do have the throat. It's very common. People that have a difficulty with projecting their voice, projecting their thoughts, their ideas, their beliefs, lose my breath, lump in the throat feeling, tension in the throat, hesitation, a lot of ums, like you hear a lot of people, like, they use the word like a lot because they don't really, they're not comfortable projecting their ideas. So this is all very, very common. Now, make sure that as you're projecting your voice, you're very aware of how you're doing it as well, right? So lower self is always listening to what sort of ideas you have in any given situation. Lower self is listening to how you're projecting your voice. It's listening to all these things, how you're projecting your body. So in that moment, when you're speaking to someone, lower self is paying attention. So if there's a conscious hesitation, then you're justifying its fears. It says, yeah, that is a fear, and we need to strengthen that. However, if you start to use your hands a bit more, you start to get a bit louder, you start to be playful with it, right? Then lower self says, that old fear doesn't seem to be the case anymore. We can start to replace this. Okay, so it really is the way you project yourself, because honestly, we go about our lives thinking that we only have to be this one person. Wake up in the morning, you check in with yourself, and you go into your worryful slump, the worrying cycle, because it's been so familiarized and you're so familiar with it and you're so comfortable with the fear and anxiety that anything else would make you feel uncomfortable. The truth is, as you go about the day, you can be 50 different people, right? And this is something that you need to understand. When we were children, right, sometimes we would tell the other kids, okay, everybody sit down and it's time for me to speak. And we would imagine that we're giving this big speech. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today we're going to go into yada, yada, yada. And you became that person. And then you went playing on the trees and you were a completely different person. You were so brave and you were courageous now and you were strong, right? And then other times you were sitting on a bus and you were imagining that you were the passenger on a bus and you were the observer. You know, it's okay to be different people at different times of the day. You, Mel, have to project that part of you that still lives within you, right? During those very moments. And that way, the sensations and symptoms will clear up.
So, a lot he said. There's a lot he. If I could talk, there's a lot that he said there. I like the skill sets he shared about. If you want to overcome the confrontation anxiety, right? Number one, focus on. I would focus on kind of that root causes to start off, like he said. Why am I fearful of rejection? Why am I fearful of non acceptance? And why am I craving acceptance so much, right? Figure that out first, right? And doesn't mean you'll figure it all out at one time or figure it out rather, but be an investigator. Start to really write down, well, okay, why am I feeling this type of way? Why am I? 'Cause that's what I had to do. I had to connect the dots and I had to figure out what situations, what things made me want to hide away. I had to really break down that whole experience in turn and go even further back in my life and figure out. And I started to connect all the dots. I started to say, gee, no wonder why I'm doing that because I'm acting like so and so. A lot of times you realize you're acting like people you saw growing up. Not like in a negative way, but just like, not everybody, your authority figures can have negative traits growing up too because we're not perfect people that they could have got from theirs, right? Talk about generational habits and anxiety. Um, you kind of just have to break all that down and kind of realize what it really is. And so that's what I had to do. And once you do that, like you said, you start putting yourself out there, start off with small steps. Maybe you just go talk to the neighbor. Maybe you go to the store and go make conversation with the cashier. You know what I mean? Or just something. Find something small. Call somebody if you have to start off. Whatever makes you comfortable. Take those small steps. Do it in repetitions and make bigger goals as you go on. That's something I've had to go through. So, trust me, it's not as hard as you think. It's very fun because when you haven't done it for so long, like I was, once you start get back out again and talking to people and putting yourself out there, you may still get rejected. You may still not be accepted by certain people. I've experienced that in the last year, but I don't take it as a negative. I don't take it as like a bad thing. I take it as a positive because at the end of the day, I'm still doing things I would have never done. And I'm a lot more confident now in who I am, and I know who I am now. I know who I am as a person now. And so, I don't, it's a good thing. You just take and keep rolling with it. It doesn't matter. You can't be so affected by what the outside world's doing and what the outside world says and how the pressure again. You can't allow that. And it's like he said, you have to show ways to project safety. The world isn't as scary as a place we think it is. And so the more we project safety by talking slower, using our hand movements, like you said, little skill sets like that, you could do future, like visionary things, imagining the best in a future scenario. We image cycling, as we like to call it. A lot of things, a lot of that stuff helps, and just do it in repetition. Your prayer life's very important. If you have a spiritual background, that's very key. That'll give you peace and confidence in yourself, probably more than anything, to be honest with you. Um, but again, it's like you have to project safety because you're running old beliefs. You're running old belief patterns. And so I'm going to take a quick break because this first half today was about the anxiety part of it, right? And he shared there a lot of great tips and how when you start to project safety, and like he said, the tips and stuff that he shared, what I just shared, will start to alleviate a lot of those symptoms you feel. And the fear will start to seem less and less fearful, right? But I'm gonna take it to another level when I come out of the break because I feel like he mentioned the word their beliefs, right? Their beliefs that we've carried, and I'm gonna take a deep dive because into that about what's causing a lot of our beliefs nowadays with people. Because if you really look around in our society, a lot of people have confrontation anxiety. A lot of people are afraid to talk nowadays. A lot of people don't know, especially people my age. We don't really know how to communicate nowadays. A lot of us, we don't know how to. It's very awkward for people to talk to each other, to talk to people new. People get very nervous when they talk to people nowadays, because I feel like a lot of with the social media, with the um, we have so many ways to distract ourselves now and hide and just it's very easy to stay in a little bubble and a little comfort zone now, right? And we try to run. We're always taught as people in our society tells us to run from your problems. We don't really solve problems. We run from our problems. We run from things. We as people, our natural human instinct, our flesh, when we have fear or something alerts us, we want to what? Run. But you have to train yourself and going back to about projecting safety, you have to train your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions that I don't need to run from this, your lower self, talking to your lower self, inner child, whatever you want to call it. I like calling it lower self. That lower self, that lower part of you that wants to stay in that fear, wants to stay in that agoraphobia, wants to stay hiding, wants to stay safe, right? Wants to play everything safe and wait. A lot of people wait forever and then they'll always be waiting because they're really just fearful, right? And so they can't let go of something. You know, people are afraid to let go of things. They can't let go of the past. They can't let go of something or someone even that's not healthy for you. You know, maybe you need to set boundaries with, because you're afraid you'll let people down. You're afraid you won't be accepted, right? All of that. But a lot of that's beliefs. That's all beliefs. Where do those beliefs really come from? I think a lot of it is just listening to the wrong source, listening to the world, listening to the phone, listening to, you know, the wrong people, listening to a lot of people have been, and a lot of it is, especially somebody like me who grew up in a Christian, who grew up in a Christian school, a home. Um, a lot of people I grew up with, man, really abandoned their faith, have abandoned their faith. And I'm not a perfect person at all. Nobody is. And I have my shortcomings and I'm still growing in many areas, things I got to be stronger in. But a lot of people have really just abandoned their faith and just accepted things that they know is not right. And they still, it's not godly, a lot of these things. Right. And a lot of those things has become their beliefs. They've abandoned their faith and they've changed their beliefs. And a lot of their beliefs causes them to feel, they wonder why they have the anxieties. Why is anxiety so high the last, especially 3 years, especially, 5 years, let's say 5 years, right? Why is anxiety the highest it's ever been? I think a lot of it is because of the belief patterns and the pressure nowadays. But where does that really come from, right? What are people really focusing on? What are people really valuing? Why are people putting so much of their self worth into the world? And so I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I'm going to play some clips from my man, Tony Evans, on a more spiritual side of this conversation now about why do we place so much value on that and what should we really be focusing on? What's really truth? Because if you focus on truth and you focus on what's really valuable, what's important, what's not, it takes the pressure off of you. And so if you're somebody that's like me who was going through that agoraphobia all those years, maybe you have some things you want to get better at, some anxiety, some fear you want to confront. Maybe you want to put yourself out there, like Dennis said, do some more exposure type things and challenge yourself. Well, how about we take some of that pressure off of you, right? Because it has to start within first. You have to start within some way, somehow. A little. I don't care if it's a little tiny mustard seed. You have to start within, and you have to. Let's take some of that pressure off you. Maybe let's slow down and let's take a look at maybe the beliefs we're looking at. Maybe the things we're giving so much attention to. Maybe those things really aren't as healthy for us. Maybe that's why we're feeling a lot of the anxiety we're going through. So when I come back, I'm gonna get into that and play some of these clips from Tony Evans. So I'll see you on the other side.
It's
Go.
it's it's interesting to me. God really did have that plan for me throughout this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It was simply just up to me when I was able to stop playing God. I thought I was the one making things happen. No, God is in control. A saying my dad used to always say was, man plans while God laughs. I had a plan for my life. Like, I was gonna be. I'm talking about from as soon as I can remember my first thought. I'm gonna be in the NFL. I'm gonna be, a quarterback.
Right.
I'm gonna, my life was made.
I'm gonna have all this money. I'm gonna get any girl I want. I'm gonna have all these cars.
Yeah,
That's gonna be good.
I'm talking Beyonce is gonna be like, hey, what are you doing today?
What's up?
Then Rihanna tomorrow. Like it was this plan I had for my life. And as I got older, obviously the plans got smaller, but I still continue to plan. Something that I do now, and I would recommend everybody doing every single night when I pray. What I used to do was say, God, allow me to pass this test. God, allow me to, meet this girl. God, allow, this date to go well, this day to go well. When I go to sleep every single night, what I pray for is for God's will to be done. Because He obviously knows what He's doing. I don't.
Right.
Because if I knew what I was doing, I would be, I wouldn't be talking about Baker on the Browns. I'd be on the Browns right now. If I knew if I followed my plan, Beyonce would be hitting me up. She hasn't hit me up. I must have missed that call or something.
She don't want some of Bake?
Right. She doesn't want the AMP producer. She has a billionaire husband or something.
Right.
It's interesting to me. God really did have that plan for me throughout this entire time. It was simply just up to me when I was able to stop playing God. I thought I was the one making things happen. No, God is in control. From the moment I wake up, God is in control. So
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the real. We're getting the second half now of the show with Tony Evans with the clips. Let me pull it up here. This is a sermon Tony did about singlehood, about becoming a singlehood, a Christian. He calls it a kingdom single, right? A Christian single. Why did I use this sermon today in some of these clips? Well, number one, a lot of what he says goes with the conversation we're having today about the fear of rejection, acceptance, and like I said, they're going out of the break. Excuse me, the beliefs and how much value we place on what the world says, which really becomes our beliefs, which in turn can cause that anxiety and that pressure and that confrontation anxiety and make us want to avoid, right? And have maybe agoraphobia. And so Tony's in this sermon talking about becoming a kingdom single, which this is a very great sermon. I'm linking below. If you're somebody like me, I'm a single person. I've never dated actually because of number one, mainly I'd never dated because of what happened the last 8 years of my life. Obviously, there was times where that was not even a thought. But now that I've gotten older and I've gotten back to myself and become my true self, and beyond the anxiety now, it's something I pray about and look forward to and would like in my life. I'd like to have someone to talk to, have a kind of that companionship to start off and just kind of see where it goes, God willing. And I know God has someone planned for me. But we'll use singlehood as an example, really, in this, because really, there's a lot of fear of rejection and that fear of craving acceptance. Really comes from could be your singlehood. If you're a single person, that can cause you a lot of anxiety, and I understand that fully. There's benefits to being single, and there's benefits to not. There's benefits to being people who are married. There's benefits to not being married. Tony's gonna break that down in this sermon a little bit, some of these clips, but there's and he's going to get into 1 Corinthians 7 where the apostle Paul talks about, he's talking to Christian singles, people who are single, really. He's talking to singles, and he's talking about why really people miss their calling as a single before they become married down the road, and how people stumble in out of the fear of, like, really it starts with the fear of not feeling like you're accepted, fear of rejection, but really the craving of acceptance, right? And the pressure the world puts on you. There's a lot of people that fall into really marriages that weren't meant for them. They'll just get with somebody and start dating somebody and just start messing around with somebody even just because they feel like they have to. But that's not what God intended for us. And a lot of people miss out on their true calling in life because of that. And a lot of people miss out on um, the best God had planned for them. And a lot of people go down the road of not of being depressed and just kind of living a life that they really hate because it wasn't the life that they're living really that wasn't meant for them. But it started off because they had a fear of being rejected, a fear and that craving of acceptance, that fear of non-acceptance, and just the pressure. They were caving into the pressure of the world, like we talked about in the first segment. And so, but somebody like me, you have there's downs and there's ups to singlehood. But there's a lot of downs. Sometimes even sometimes at night, even like when I'm home by myself, you're kind of like, yeah, it'd be nice to have somebody around just to hang out with, or just to as humans, it's normal for us to want companionship, right? That's completely normal. But you have to find balance and peace with that with God. You can't let what you and Tony's going to say this in the sermon. You can't let what you don't have control you. And I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I had to learn that in the last year. There was some things I did in the last year in my personal life. Kind of put myself out there. Um, but it was a learning curve for me because it was the first time. It was kind of first time I was like Dennis said earlier, putting yourself out there and challenging yourself. I got to a point where I feel like I could do that, but it was also a learning curve too, and I had to really lean on God to help me to get through it and to kind of figure out just for myself personally, just kind of growing, maturing more in that area for myself, right? Um, but it's like what God says; He uses all things to work. Uses all things and works them together for good. And He did that for me, and He showed me. He still grew me. Now, there's still things obviously I want in my life and desire, but um, I'm a lot more at peace now with it, and I understand now. I'm glad I didn't go down that path in those years. I'm glad. I'm glad God took me down the path He took me down in a lot of ways because if I would have been in a relationship with somebody, it probably would have just been I would have settled with somebody or um whatever. If I'd have went down that path like a lot of people do nowadays because it's very easy to do, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today, number one, but I also wouldn't have peace in my life. I wouldn't know all the things that I know. I wouldn't be comfortable with who I am. I wouldn't know who I am. There's a lot of things I wouldn't be where I am today, right? There's a lot of things if I just think about where I would be, it would have been bad, number one, and it would have just ended bad. I'd be in a rough spot right now. And guess what? If you're somebody that went down that road, and I'm just speaking from my path, but if you're somebody that went down that road, it's okay. It's okay. But you have a choice right now, which is why I'm here today talking about this stuff. You have a choice now to decide what you're going to do with your life. And so it's like I said, going out of the break there. Are you going to keep hanging on to somebody or something, or are you going to try to, take a step back, have grace upon yourself, lean on God, and really start to wonder and really investigate what are my real belief systems. Start investigating, start really challenging them and say, is this really healthy? Or is this what God wants me to think? Or is this what the world wants me to think? And really, really take a deep dive into your belief systems and start to alleviate some of that pressure off of you. And you're not alone. If you need to talk to somebody, you can talk to me. I don't care if I even know you. If I don't know you, if you need somebody to talk to, just reach out to somebody. I'll do the best I can to help you. I could probably relate to you in a lot of ways because, I've never been in that kind of more relational type stuff like that, but I've also been in other things in my life that are pretty similar in a lot of ways, but in some ways actually more can be more traumatic in some ways. But um, it's all the same, really. It's all the same feelings, a lot of the same root causes for people, just different things that caused it. If that makes sense. And so I'm gonna get to my first clip here from the sermon, and the first clip he talks about. We're using singlehood as a example here today about belief systems, and also it's kind of trying to give you a picture, right, about, like I said there, about not placing your beliefs solely in your value, which can cause that confrontation anxiety and that fear, not placing that solely on just what the world says, but also place it on what God says and place it on what truth really is. And even if you're somebody that doesn't believe in God, if you're somebody I've had people to leave comments before that told me they're atheists and that, but they appreciate what I'm saying, and I appreciate you guys. You have the free will to do whatever you want, to believe whatever you want. I'm just trying to give you a different perspective, really, in general in your life, and just trying to help you really get a deep dive into that conversation, to that your anxiety maybe as a whole and panic, just like I did, my agoraphobia, right? What's causing all of that? Because you're never I consider myself beyond anxiety now. I've turned that chapter in my life and moved on to addressing other things. But doesn't mean you won't feel anxiety one day in your life again. Doesn't mean you won't ever feel fear again. Doesn't mean you won't ever. We can't control what goes on in the outside world, but what we can control is us and how we react to it. And so, really, once you start to, what I'm trying to get you guys to do is look at the bigger picture, solve your, you know, stuff now, suffer deliberately, go at your problems now, stuff, and solve them as soon as you can, make peace of them, rather. Because the more you do that, the more you'll start to be able to have peace for the rest of your life in different things. Doesn't mean you won't have peace all you let me stop. Doesn't mean you won't have peace always. If I could talk, I'm looking at my notes at the same time, guys. I'm trying to read because I'm trying to look at my notes and spit it out at the same time. Okay, let me take a deep breath. See, even sometimes I need to slow down and just stop. Okay. Again, sometimes in life, right, we can have moments where don't feel peaceful, or we don't, we can feel anxiety, we can feel stress, we can feel tension, we can feel worry. We can't control what goes on in the outside world. But what we can control, we can start to help ourselves, train ourselves, to give ourselves almost like taking your own tools with you, your own skill sets out with you every day, things that can help you when you're out, right? Like, for instance, learning breathing, learning slowing down your language, how you talk, slowing down just your movements, right? How can you take the pressure off yourself and calm down your inner world, your inner system, to take that anxiety away, right? That's where we're getting at. But if you start to look at those belief patterns now and start to flip those belief patterns now, which is really what I'm trying to say, and you start to address those things now, it'll help you out further down the road for the rest of your life. And so that's really what I'm trying to say as a whole. I just couldn't spit it out properly first. Whatever. You guys get the point. So, but no, I mean, it's doing things now. What can you do to help yourself now? Where can you grow in areas of your life now? What are belief patterns that are unhealthy for you? Maybe you can change. That will help you for the rest of your life. Because, like I said, we don't know we can't control what's going to happen in the future, and who knows what's going to happen next year, right? So, but what we can control is how we're going to respond to it as people, what our worldview, what our lens is, how we operate. Are you a follower? Are you a trendsetter? Are you somebody? Are you a strong, independent person that can think for yourself? It takes a skill set, but it takes time to get there. It takes practice, but it takes a belief and it takes a faith to do that. And so, my man Tony Evans, I'm gonna link the sermon below if you want to watch the whole thing. I'll start off with the first clip here where he's talking about the Apostle Paul and what Paul is saying about why it's important. Again, we're using singlehood as an example here about why it's important to, focus on the benefits of being a single person, not maybe the pressure. If you're somebody single like me, not focus on that pressure, right? That's kind of what we're aiming at here, is that pressure that can cause a lot of things we talked about in the first segment. So, yeah, let me get to it.
That is, as a divinely ordained state, not just a physical relational state. He says, when you come to me called, I don't want you to arbitrarily try to switch states. In other words, I don't want you to reduce where I have you. I just want you to hang out with me in the state you're in. He says, with God. See, the problem is, both in marriage and specifically with singlehood, we've defined those states without God, and because we've defined the states without God, the states become a problem. We've got folks here today, as in most churches, who are like flies on
So, okay, make sure I'm muted. So I like what he said there, and we're using this what he said as a broader example, right? That's what the whole point of the sermon is. Um, I like what he said. People are, like he said, people are placing value on their singlehood and on their things, and they're making a bigger deal out of it than what it really is. And what God is saying is, hey, don't focus on what they're saying about what the world's saying about whatever X is, right? Um, focus on what I say about it. Focus on me and what I want you to do right now, because when you do that, it doesn't control you. And you have peace in your life. You have more of, you're able to solve things better. You're able to think clearer. You don't have as much anxiety because God is with you. You feel his presence. He's giving you that discernment. But your faith is so strong. When your faith is so strong, you don't really, I mean, really, when your faith is strong, your confidence is high, your beliefs are, you're confident in your beliefs. Is it really much anxiety? Not as much. Doesn't mean we don't have it, but we're able to identify what anxiety is better. So this is kind of, you get what I'm saying? It's like a bigger picture here, what I'm really trying to display to you guys today about, okay, we talked in the first segment about what confrontation anxiety is and what the fear of rejection and craving acceptance and all that. But let's really look at a deeper dive now into our belief systems and what can we do to help ourselves. And so there's one right there, like he just said. Are you placing more value on what the world says and what the social media is telling you to do, what the world's pressuring you to do, what the world says you need? Or are you leaving it to God and really challenging your faith and letting go and really practicing true serenity and just trusting him? Because when the more you do that, you're not going to have as much anxiety. And I've experienced that in my life. The more I let it go to God and practice that more and more, and the more I prayed and just talk to God constantly, constant communication, prayer, and talking with God. You're somebody that doesn't believe in God. Just try talking to him maybe and see if you feel something. And just keep talking. Just start talking right now. Or after this video, pause this video and just start talking. And just lay it all out there. And just let it out and just really let go of what's really bothering you. What are things you're craving? Okay, you're craving acceptance. What are you really craving through that acceptance? That's what you got to ask yourself. What am I really craving through that acceptance? It's like I said earlier, challenging, investigating your beliefs. That's really what we're talking about here. So, um, but also God has a calling for you. And if you're so focused on what you don't have or what you want in your life, or if you're so focused and caught up in what being accepted and liked by the world, you're going to miss your calling. You're not doing the work God called you to do. And when you're outside of God's will, I'm just sorry, you're not going to have peace in your life. It's just not going to happen. Or if you're so focused on, if you're easily controlled, again, if you don't believe in God, if you're easily controlled by the outside world and people and their opinions and whether they like you or not, you're not going to have peace in your life. You live in a double mind. You're living you have a divided mind, which in turn causes the anxiety and the fear. So now you see what I'm saying. We're getting to the deep, deep root cause now. So that's where you really have to make peace, because if you want peace for the rest of you, if you want to find that inner peace and that confidence and that, just that, to live the rest of your life the way you want to live and just in peace and just, doesn't mean we don't have problems. Doesn't mean things don't happen. But again, you're able to have a willpower within you, a supernatural power to be able to discern things, to see things for what they really are, right? And you find your true calling when you let go and you go down that path, and you find the things that really make you happy, and you find the things that God really intended for you, and you start to become the person you want to become. You're being you. You have peace in your life. A lot of people nowadays in our society, especially here in the Western world in America, we don't have peace. A lot of people, because a lot of people don't have peace, right? Because they're so caught up in what people are saying about them, X, Y, and Z is doing, and I need to be doing this. I don't have this yet. You know, I'm behind. Blah 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 blah. That's stress or that's anxiety. So again, like Tony said there, find your calling. Allow God to leave it to God first. Start there. Surrender. That's the key word. Surrender. That's the first step. So now the next part I'm gonna play. Tony talks about time and how time is important for a Christian. You have to understand time, understand God's timing, and that the world's time is go 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 constant right now, really instant. It's a microwave mentality we have nowadays in society, right? God's timing is different than ours a lot of times, and I can attest to that. I mean, here, if you asked me at 15 years old before all that, did I think I would be where I am now at 15 years old? Like in terms of some of the things I don't have yet? No. But did God know what he was doing? Like I said earlier, it's probably a good thing I wasn't in a relationship in the past at certain times. Yeah. So again, that's how you make peace with the past, number one, but also to find comfort where you are now. And it also helps your confidence in going forward to where God's got it taken care of. You just expect it to happen. Doesn't mean you don't have moments and down days or things like that, but you're able to get through it quicker because you have somebody, you have God you can talk to, but also you start to let go more and you start to surrender to where it doesn't really, if the thoughts or the ideas show up, that lower self shows up, you just don't give it much attention. You just come from a loving manner and say, hey, lower self, you just kind of like laugh it off. Once you find laughter in your anxiety and your pain and stuff, that's when you're really starting to heal because it doesn't affect you as much. And so that's what he's going to talk about here about time, right? He's going to talk about time and just he's kind of going to start talking about the pressure too. This is really good what he says here. If I can find it. There we go. All right. And here we go. This is Tony here talking about time.
Seek a wife. In other words, he doesn't want you just going out there, just trying to find somebody. And then he continues in verse 29. He says, but I say, brethren, the time has been shortened, so that from now on, those of you who have wives should be as those who have had none. Those who weep as those who don't weep, rejoice as those who do not rejoice, those who buy as those who do not possess. And then he makes his point in verse 31. And those who use the world as though they did not make full use of it, for the form of this world is passing away. He says, if you are a frustrated single, you're not looking at time right. He says, you're not looking at time right. The form of this world that is passing away. In other words, he says, I don't want you to think with a temporal mindset. I don't want you to lose sight of heaven because you're trying to maximize earth. What he's saying is, I want to make sure that your perspective is coming from above and not the pressure folk are putting on you here below. Oh, you 35, you ain't married yet? When you gonna find you somebody? You got parents, when am I gonna get some grandkids? So you got all this pressure on you to conform to this world about something that's passing away. That's why he's writing this chapter specifically to singles, although he talks to marrieds too. He wants to shift your perspective because what you look for or how you look for it will affect how you feel about it. When you have God's view, he says, and you don't make more of this thing than it was meant to be. See what the world does and the television does and entertainment does and your guy friends do and your girlfriends do is they make a bigger deal of it than God makes. So then you feel pressure to conform to the world because they've given a value system God does not have. God's value system, as you'll see in a moment, is that if you are the right kind of single, you are just fine. You're not a second-rate citizen, a second-class citizen, and in fact, you may not be missing out on all that. Okay? As one lady came and told me, she said, I wish they'd have told me before I got married, because then ain't all that. All right?
So, so a lot that he said there, a lot to unpack in that little 2 minutes there. The first part I want to start with kind of goes back to what Dennis was saying early on in his live about how you project. Remember, Dennis said how you project yourself is very key. Well, it's like Tony pretty much just said it there. How you define yourself, how you see yourself is very important. If you see yourself as a second class citizen or somebody that's beneath people or below people, you're going to feel a type of way. You're going to have stress in your life. You're going to feel you're behind. You're going to feel that pressure. You're going to put pressure on yourself naturally. That's what it does, which in turn leads to, like we talked about earlier, the fear of rejection, craving acceptance, confrontation anxiety, agoraphobia, X, Y, and Z, whatever. Yeah, that's what it leads to. It leads to that. And also, you're not a second class citizen if you don't have certain things. You're not, again, going back to beliefs, which why beliefs and pressure go hand in hand. Because if your belief system is and how you project yourself, how you see yourself is really in that kind of worldview. And if you look at what the world says and what they say, if society says you don't have X, Y, and Z, that means you're not good enough. You put pressure on yourself and you feel that pressure and your identity is attached to that pressure and what those value systems are. Yeah, you're gonna feel anxiety. You're probably gonna feel stressed out. You're gonna feel depressed because you're looking at the wrong thing. Your value system is in the wrong area. And even for somebody that doesn't believe in God, like I keep emphasizing, even if you don't believe in God, you got to ask yourself, man, is what I'm really valuing, does it really matter? Does it really matter what other people say about me? Does it really matter? Like, what am I doing here? Why do I care so much about what these people think? Why do I care so much about being accepted and liked? I get we want to have friends, we want to have people to hang out with. I get that. But it's like people will gravitate to you. People gravitate to people now who aren't followers, who aren't because we have everybody, we have plenty of followers nowadays. All right, we have too many. People are attracted to people that do their own thing and kind of just have their own belief systems and don't go around and follow the world. They're not follow. They don't go out and just do things stupid and stupidity things. Um, just people go out and do things that are out of stupidity just to be liked and just to be accepted, just to be for popularity. That's pressure. It's pressure they're caving into. Rather, it's pressure they're caving into, and it's because their belief systems are out of whack. Their lens, how they see the world, their worldview lens is not accurate. It's not healthy, and so we wonder why people wonder why they feel the anxiety and stress constantly that they feel. People are carrying guilt. They're guilty about themselves. Maybe it's the things they did illegitimately that they just kind of it'll be all right. God'll understand. I could do this here and there. God'll understand. I have needs and desire wants. God'll understand my wants and needs rather, as people we say humanly, fleshly, selfishly. And I don't care. Maybe your pastor or your whoever. Maybe he's telling you it's okay too, and that don't worry about it, and that God understands, and just keep living that lifestyle. But yes, God understands, and God knows we have a fallen nature, and we all fall short. We all have things we're all struggling with. We all work through. But you have to really, if you want to be freed from things, if you want to grow in your life, you want to evolve in your life, if you want to find that inner peace in your life, you have to allow yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. Number one, but you also have to allow yourself to maybe let go of those old belief systems, let go of what you've always thought was normal, and maybe allow yourself to go into things that are new, and allow yourself to embrace the new. Allow yourself to be different. It's okay to be different. And actually, in a lot of ways nowadays, it's great to be different in the world because this is a very, especially nowadays with the society, what our society's come here, especially in America, it's a very evil world and a very out of whack world, to put it in nice terms. what we value now is very not healthy, borderline satanic, and satanic in a lot of ways. The things that we value and we promote, right? It's like I saw something the other day. A teacher somewhere at a school has her. I don't know, they were like third, second, or first grade, maybe kindergarten. They were somewhere between kindergarten and third grade. Little kids, right, in school, little innocent little kids. She's got the kids up in class, and she's up there singing that song. What's it? Ski Yeet, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't listen to that crap. Uh, so it's the new rapper made it, and the lyrics are horrible. You actually go look at the song. I actually went and looked at the lyrics of the song just because I saw this, and I'm like, my gosh, these lyrics are horrible. And here, man, there's music maybe I listen to here and there, like some old songs maybe I listened to when I was a kid, but I don't really listen to things nowadays I know aren't healthy for me because I don't want to hear it. It's not who I am. It's not my identity. It's not really what Christ would want me to listen to. And I've had to do a lot more discipline and obedience in that area. But some of these songs nowadays, man, it's just so obvious. And this teacher has the kids. She kind of like remixed the lyrics. Let me take this song called Ski and let me remix the lyrics, right? And have my little kids sing it in my class. I'm thinking, I just think that's healthy, man. I don't think, again, what we value, what we're valuing nowadays in society, and this is for people who are non-believers, right? And if you are a believer, it is for everybody, especially non-believers. Really think about this. Do you think it's really healthy for your kid to be up there in a classroom singing that kind of song? I don't care. People could say, "Well, what's wrong with that? It's she's just having fun with it. It's just innocent." You don't understand. It starts to slowly program your mind. And that's what we wonder what causes the depressions in our why do we have so much skyrocket anxiety and depression nowadays in our society? Because we've done it to ourselves. Especially here in America. We've allowed certain things here in America. We've allowed it because men aren't men anymore. We're weak. I'm sorry to talk like this, but we've all chopped our balls off, a lot of men, and just handed them over and said, "There you go. As long as I'm accepted and liked, that's all that matters. Just don't bother me. Don't pressure me. Just I'll do whatever you guys say." In terms of just society and the social media, men have chopped their balls off and just let them go and just handed them over and just. When we wonder why again, why there's so much pressure and so why people are caving to the pressure and why people have so much anxiety and panic and tension and tension and just stress and why the mental health uh, overall in America has just gone down south and the worst it's ever been because we've allowed these things. And again, and so she's up there with the kids and they're all sitting there skiing, singing, jumping around and eating it up and all that. And I'm just like, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's right. If you actually go look at the lyrics of the song, again, we might laugh at it. And people laugh and you hear it, you might laugh, it's like, gee, that's, but if you really look at the lyrics, what people really, there's people, especially my age nowadays, they listen to that stuff and they sing it like it's like their anthem. Ski eat. And I'm not going to repeat some of the lyrics, but I'm just kind of like, my gosh, this is what you're putting in your head? The beliefs are out of whack. And again, if you're somebody who's a non-believer, really ask yourself. I'm using that as an example. Is a lot of, like I said, is a lot of what I'm really placing value on in this world with the pressure, why I'm feeling the anxiety I'm feeling, is it really healthy? Because what we have a lot of nowadays too, which Tony's just kind of talked about there. Tony talked about the pressure, right? You feel a lot of pressure I notice like when you're high school and college, especially when you get to college, you become a young adult. I'm 24. You feel a lot of pressure. And a lot of times nowadays, that pressure, for lack of better, we have babies raising babies now. We have babies raising babies now. We have college and young adults having kids illegitimately, and they're raising those kids. Babies raising babies. So what happens now? And we wonder why we have so much the problems we have, especially mentally. Because we have babies raising babies. And what's going to happen? because the parents, the babies that are raising these kids, they don't know how to think properly, obviously, because they don't. Their belief system is so attached to the world and with social media. They're like somebody that's like a string attached to them. They're just easily controlled. And so guess what? When their kids get older, they're gonna go into a classroom and start skeeting it up and saying that shit and listen to that. And it's just it's a never ending cycle. And all the problems attached to it. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. We wonder why we have all the problems we have nowadays. Look at your belief systems, people. Beliefs. What are you placing value on? Got to ask yourself that. So, I know I ranted there a little bit. After that rant, that was a fabulous rant, 5-star rant. I need some water. And as I'm drinking this water, I'll play the next clip here from Tony Evans. I got this last clip here from Tony Evans talking about how you should value yourself, really, and don't let what you have control you. Or did I say that right? Maybe not. I'm still calming down from my rant. Don't let what you don't have control you. Rather, don't let what you don't have control you. Yeah, I'm gonna play the clip now. Again, that was my rant. But again, honestly, man, if you look around nowadays, I didn't mean to cuss either, but if you look around nowadays, we wonder why we have the problems we have. I'm glad. Maybe that's why I'm here. Maybe, hopefully, and again, don't just think a lot of what I'm saying. I'm just picking on people, or just a lot of what I say is a ministry for myself to keep myself in check. And so, especially I take where God has placed me very seriously. I take that as an honor, and I don't abuse that. And just like one day I'm single now, but one day when I have a wife, when I have kids, especially when I have a wife at first, I take that very serious. I take that as a blessing and an honor, and I'm supposed to treat that how God would want me to treat that and respect that and approach that. And when I have kids one day, it's my job as the man of the house to protect that house and to also lead and guide them in the direction where they can discern things properly. Where they're not being, even if they have to go to a school where they're, although it's very, and that's another thing. It's so sad now. This is kind of off topic, just how you really can't find a place nowadays, a school, even for schooling nowadays. There's no like everywhere you go now is just so corrupted and just so people just jamming down their beliefs down people's throats, or just jamming down their lifestyle, and you have to act a certain way. And when I was 15 years old, I was in an environment like that. And I'm not saying the whole everybody in that school or in that place is bad. That's not what I'm saying. But you felt that pressure. It was just odd. Somebody like me who was an outsider that came in, that didn't maybe live in the same community as certain people or go to the same church as certain people, you felt like pressure and you felt kind of isolated. You felt like you were left out, which kind of fed into a lot of that fear of rejection and craving acceptance that I had, which led me down the road of to eventually not being able to go a block away from my house. So you see how it kind of all just snowballs? That's kind of what I'm trying to show you guys the bigger picture today. And again, I've experienced it, but I didn't understand at the time at 15 years old how to really process all that, rationalize all that. Looking back now I'm able, for the rest of my life, I know who I am, and I'm able to think for myself, discern myself, and also have the power of God's wisdom within me, and discernment and the Holy Spirit within me, able to help me to discern things and to the wisdom and to look at things for what they really are and how to make proper choices. I mean, we're always perfect, but He helps me grow. God's always helping me grow. We're never going to stop evolving as people, especially spiritually. But yeah, it's just crazy, man. I'm just on a rant. I'm in a kind of a rantful mood now, as you can tell. But it is what it is. But I'm gonna play this clip here from Tony Evans, and then yeah, we'll go from there.
of his kingdom for the betterment of yourself, and you're not to let something that you don't have own you. Here's the question every Christian single should ask: God, how do you want to use me in the state I'm in till you change my state for your maximum purpose? That is the question every single Christian should ask and see God's answer on. Because when God answers that question, while the desire to be married will stay there, the domination of marriage won't be there, because you will be undistracted. He says, I want to every Christian single, undistracted devotion to the Lord. That is fulfilling your divinely ordained purpose. And every Christian has one. Every single Christian has one. God wants to use whatever he's given you undistracted. So don't let married folk distract you from being a maximized single, because you are first class in God's point of view. And he's going to show you that in just a moment. But what God wants you and I to know right now, that marriage has its place, but it is not to dominate you as a single. You ought to have undistracted focus on the Lord. Now,
So again, love what he said there to close that out. We're to have undistracted attention on the Lord, focus on the Lord. But I like what he said. Don't let what you don't have control you. Because if you allow it to control you, you're going to have that fear. You're going to have that anxiety. You're going to have that panic. You're going to have that worry. Like a lot of what triggered my health anxiety, for instance, it was when other things were happening. Right? It's, if that makes sense. Like I did the health anxiety program on Dennis's website back in 2021. That was the first program I did. And I overcame the health anxiety because I learned through that program what the health anxiety really was, right? But I still had some things I was working through after that would trigger the health anxiety to come back. It would, out of habit, out of safety, out of fear. So that's when I had to do more inner work, right? And when I figured out the inner work and I did the inner circle program, that's when I figured out these are the real deep rooted issues of my anxiety. This is what really, causes me to feel anxious, and this is what causes all the feelings that we described in many ways today. And so I was able to connect all the dots and I was able to see what causes that snowball effect to where I got to points in my life where I was fearful about my health, even though I was healthy, and I didn't want to leave my house, that kind of stuff. There was internal things that were leading it, that were flaming, that were putting more fuel to the fire, and they were leading up to that, to where I would be like that. And so, but again, a lot of that is people, for instance, will not let what they don't have control them. So if you let something control you, like I was lying, that fear I had, the deep pain I had deep down inside was controlling me for years. That's basically what I'm trying to say there. It was controlling me for years. That pain was controlling me for a long time. It would make me be certain things. It would cause my health anxiety. It would cause my agoraphobia. It would cause me to hide. It would cause me to feel anxious and I want to leave the home. And when I tried to leave the house, I would start panicking, right, in the car. But it was the pain that was controlling me in different avenues, different ways. It was my lower self, my inner child, that was trying to keep me safe, because it didn't want me to experience what I experienced ever again, because it deemed it as very traumatic. Right? And so that's an anxiety example of this. But in terms of just overall, if we allow what we don't have to control us, we place our value system on that. And we value ourselves through that, of monetary things and things we've accomplished or things we've done, when really none of that stuff really matters. The only thing that matters is, are you doing what God has called you to do? And if you're somebody that's a non-believer, are you doing what you feel like you're called to do? Do you feel like you're doing things that, do you feel good about yourself? Are you happy? Are you at peace with yourself? Ask yourself that if you're not a believer. Are you somebody who, do you like who you are? Are you where you want to be? I'm not saying like, do you like where you're at in your life? Better way to put it. Are you doing the things that you truly want to do? Are you doing your, because I had a desire to do this kind of work, what I'm doing now, for a long time. It's just something I always liked doing. I always liked doing some type of media work or some type of just talking on a podcast and became a thing, and just talking sports. It was something I always had a desire to do. I used to do it naturally in private anyways. I could sit, anybody that grew up with me knows, I could sit and yap your ear off about sports for hours. And so, and that's just one example of sports, but just in life in general, I love talking to people. I love talking. It's just, I like sharing. I'm very, I don't know, it's just a gift God gave me. And I can see why now. And I'll continue, and he'll take me places I don't even know yet, that I'm sure I'll know more. But um, he's preparing me now for other things in the future. But if I looked at what I didn't have and let that control me, like for instance, my singlehood, or financially, or career wise, or I could have easily done that, guys. If I'm 15 years old and I couldn't leave my house, you can probably put together a lot of things I didn't get to do or have, because because of what I was going through. I couldn't. Yeah, I mean, you can't leave your house. You can't. There's a lot of things you miss out on at 15 years old too. And so the years after that, for 6 years, there was a lot of things I never. There's things I'll never be able to. There's things I'll never be able to do, obviously, because time passes. But there's things I just never had, things I never got to do because I was going through that. But if I'd allowed those things to control me, and guys, believe me, was it still hard? And sometimes it still does get hard at times. Do you get down? Is it okay to feel down at times? Is it okay to have bad days? Absolutely. And I had many of those. And still, even recently at times, I'll get like that sometimes. But I'm able to, what I learned though, what I'm able to do now is, like I told you guys earlier, my value system's placed on God. Who I am as a person is placed on God. You have to really trust that where you are in your life is going to lead to the best, and that you'll maximize who you are as a person, and God's calling your life. God's will for your life is the best. And so if I try to do things my way, it's not going to be the best. Right? If I try to go and force a relationship with somebody or go settle, it's not the best. God, it's that person's probably not equipped. And in terms of singlehood, for like Tony mentions in that sermon, at the end of that sermon, there's somebody out there. I'll play. You know what? I'm gonna play it real quick. This is great. I'm gonna play it right here at the end of the sermon. I believe it's right. Here we go. Wait, hold on one second. So Tony gives an example here about finding God has the best already planned out, designed for you. And so let me play this right here at the end. Let's listen to this real quick. Listen to Tony here, what he says.
You're an amateur bowler. If you're an amateur bowler, that means you go up there and there are all these balls on the rack to choose from. You know, different colors, different sizes. The three holes in them are different. So what you do is you keep messing around with them till you find the one you want. And you go, you bowl it. You may not even wait for that one to come back. You just go get another one. Just be rolling gutter ball after gutter ball. Just gutter ball. You go get another one. If you're a serious bowler, you got a custom made ball. See, you got a ball that was made for your fingers. It was made for your style. It fits into your bag. Have you ever noticed that the balls on the rack, everybody using them? Everybody using them. Any old body can just come up and take, I want this one today. Boom. I ain't messing with that one no more. Get another one. Boom. I ain't messing with that one no more. You notice the ones on the rack all chipped up and broke and cracked and all of that, because everybody been messing with them. But if you got a custom-made ball, nobody better not touch that. That's been made with me in mind. God don't expect you to be just handled up and used up by everybody who can get close to you and grab you because you're a custom-made Christian and you deserve a custom-made mate and you deserve somebody where God has put them together with you in mind. But if you are living undistracted, you'll hear his voice when he tells you your bowling ball is ready.
So I love how you illustrated it there. And that's an example of singlehood. But really with anything in life, if you focus on what you don't have, it's not the best if it's not outside of God's will. And so again, if I sat around and focus as a single person, like I said, I go out and just settle, and that's easy. But it's not where God wants to do. It's not who I am. One as a person, but also it's not where God wants me. It's not what God has designed for me. God has something custom made for you already. He has somebody custom made for you. God has things already planned out for you. Again, that's where, like he said earlier, going back to time, you have to understand time. You have to understand God's time. You have to master patience. You have to practice patience. You have to, do these things like Dennis said earlier, projecting safety. Take that pressure off of you because God has the best in store for you. And even if you don't believe in God, if you really just take time for yourself and just be you, like a lot we talked about today, and just really believe that the best is already out there for you, whatever you believe in, it will reward you. Trust me. And you'll grow and you'll know. But if you keep following the world and the pressure of the world and keep using those, like he said, the bowling balls everybody else uses that's shipped up and wrecked, and keep doing what everybody else is doing, you're just going to keep feeling the way you're feeling. You keep having that fear, that pain, everything's going to keep controlling you. You're never really going to be truly free. That's really the whole point of this today. And so don't focus on the things, like you said, don't let what you don't have not control you. And also, a lot of what we put value on nowadays in society, guys, really ain't all that. Like Tony said earlier, things really aren't what we made them out to be. We've made a bigger deal out of things in society than how God intended us to view them and how we should view them personally. Why should we place these things on such a high pedestal? And again, guys, I've been there. It's something we've all had. Every one of us. Yeah, if you're somebody out there says you never did that, you're like everybody here listening to this right now, including myself, has had to learn that lesson, and still we will continue to practice learning that and growing in that area at one point in our life, and continue to, like I am now. But again, you can't place such high of a value on these things, and it's like my man Kwame Brown said. I heard this the other day on one of his lives he was doing. I'm gonna play this real quick as the end here before we get out of here. Kwame was responding a video. I'm gonna link it below. He was talking about something between Steven Jackson and Gilbert Arenas, and how I guess Gilbert said something along the lines of Gilbert Arenas said he would rather have the $100+ million or more, not a championship, rather than $50 million in a championship. It was like a debate they were having. And Steven Jackson said he would rather have $50 million and a championship because he goes, people like him who came from nothing, you could buy anything you want with $50 billion. That's a lot of money. What do you need $50 more million dollars for? He said, as an athlete, you'd rather have a championship and $50 million than the $100 million. So Kwame was responding to Steven Jackson's take on Gilbert. And I actually agree with Kwame here. I think Steven Jackson, I agree with Steven Jackson. I think nowadays there's so much, again, there's so much high of a value on money, and just, especially in sports, on money and just the things that, if you win a championship, that's special. That's remembered. And it's really a bigger point. Would you rather be liked and have all the money in the world? Would you rather do something that's respected and remembered? And would you rather leave an impact on people's lives? It's really what it is. And so, but I like what Kwame says here, though, about, again, this is somebody who was a number 1 overall pick in the draft. Whatever you think about his career, there's been a lot of narratives about his career. I think, he was drafted in the wrong situation. He was drafted to a team that didn't want him really, and it kind of can't expect a young kid to grow in that environment. And he was injured too a couple times, but still had a 13-year career, which is longer than a lot of people. And again, when you're number 1 overall pick and you're in the NBA, You can get anything you want at any time. Trust me. Uh, I've heard many stories from Kwame. Just it doesn't take a Swami to figure that out. Um, but this is coming from somebody who's experienced it. And then he's older now. He's almost in his early 40s, I believe, or late 30s. And this is somebody who can buy anything he wants. Very successful man, Kwame Brown. But a lot of what we place value on, like he says here, really ain't all that. And so listen to Kwame here, what he has to say about it.
When is enough enough? The man went up there and said he made $171 million. Like, when is enough enough? Like, when are you going to settle down and be happy and be able to chase things that make you happy instead of money? Money do not make you happy. I can tell you that right now. Anybody showing you their cars, their houses, and all that, saying, I'm happy because I got this, they get used to that. That shit do not make you happy. Having a big house, having a nice car, and all this other shit, at some point that car get old. At some point that house get old. You can get the finest girl in the world, and at the end of the day, her ass gonna get old of you. You're gonna be tired of it. Somebody else gonna look at it and say, oh my God. Just like somebody else gonna look at you as a man and say, oh my God. But your old lady looking at you like,
Yeah. Well, but Kwame said there that it really ain't all that, that we place value on. And you watch Kwame Brown, he's just a guy who lives his life in peace, does what he wants when he wants, and just he's a very I respect the way he lives. He just does what he wants to do. He just lives his life in peace and just carries on with his life. He don't care. That's somebody who's been criticized very, in vulgar ways at times, and people lied about his career for 20 years. They put a lie on him. Just kept living his life though. He just didn't care what people on the outside said. He didn't place value into it, and he doesn't. He'll respond to people obviously now because he makes fun out of it, but he's just having fun with it. That's all he's doing. And so, but he's a great example of somebody who just doesn't care, like just lives their life and just lives in peace and just he's happy and content with who he is and what he did in his life. He doesn't allow how the world defines people. He didn't allow that to define him, and so he has peace in his life. He's not afraid to be himself around people. He likes confrontations. Sometimes good, sometimes in a funny way, in a bad way, in a very angry way. But he's an example of somebody of when you live like that, you're not afraid you don't have that confrontation anxiety. You're not afraid of rejection. You don't crave acceptance because you're at peace with who you are. And so I hope today's show spoke a lot to you. I know it was a long show today. It was a deep show. But again, man, probably one of the most important shows I ever did was today because it's just for your life, for your own sake, for your own peace. I want people to experience the same things that I've been able to learn and experience in my life that helped me grow my life from where I was and that hole I was in for a long time that felt like prison. If I can get out of it and get through it, and if I can become and I can do all these things, so can you. So I just wanted to share with you guys because I feel like everybody deserves that opportunity. Everybody deserves to live in that kind of peace, and I think too, just somebody's got to say it, man. Especially people my age. There's just so much BS going on nowadays, and just so much. Just we don't, like I said, like I said early in the show, we don't know how to talk with each other nowadays. We don't communicate anymore. We don't. There's a lot of unhealthy habits that we're just not even really aware of. That's really bringing us down as not only as people, as society, but also just for ourselves. People are just letting themselves go and just kind of waste away in a way. And just people are just accepting, you know, mediocrity is what I like to call it, just in your life, and just people just accepting uh, to live that way, and to live in not and just to live in anxiety and fear every day, and to be controlled, and to you might own a lot of things, you might look good and wear nice clothes, but because you're trying to show off to people, but you don't have real peace. You're trying to live a fake life, and it's just mediocrity to me. It's like JB says, my man JB. Mediocrity is a new excellence in society. Mediocrity is a new excellence. It really is. It's really sad though. It's kind of again, another example, a lot of why we feel the way we are, why people feel the way they do nowadays, why people have that fear and that anxiety, and where we are in society. So, mediocrity is the new exercise, but God has the best for you. You don't have to choose that. You have the choice. And so, like for me, I chose to do a different. I'm choosing. I had to make that choice, and I still choose to continue, and always will choose to go for God's best, even if I had to wait longer, even if whatever I have to go through, even if I go through hard trials and times, I'm still sticking to it because I know who I am, and I always have the inner peace. And yeah, there was a lot of things I missed out on the last 7, 8 years when I had to go through all that. But one thing I do have is inner peace, and one thing I had even though I was going through that stuff, I still had inner peace. I was still able to have inner peace in my life. I wasn't distracted by all this stuff out in the world. I wasn't controlled by it. I never lost touch of who I really am. And I'm glad God took me down that road because of that. And so, again, the choice is yours. And I hope this episode helped you today. Go subscribe to the Anxiety Guy. Go leave a comment. I'll link that live down below. Go subscribe to him. Go subscribe to Kwame Brown, Bus Life, and his main channel, Kwame Brown Bus Life and Bus Life 2.0. I'll link that video down below too. And go subscribe to Tony Evans as well on his channel. He has so many videos. You're somebody who wants to grow your spiritual life. You go subscribe to Tony, Charles Stanley, some great guys out there, unbelievable pastors that have so many great videos in just many different areas of life where you could be struggling with, you need help with. So leave a comment below in this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share for me. I really want to hear your comments and feedback on this video. Whether you want to message me, you can find my contact down below. If you want to leave a message on this, or a comment on this video rather, down below, please do. I love to hear you guys' feedback. And yeah, that was a lot today. But love all you guys, and make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you next one. I'm out of here. The wrong button. Can you believe that? I hit the intro button. But oh well, sometimes things happen. Now I'm out of here. Gone.